Hey boaters, it's Jim from Raymarine. It's a Tuesday night, and this is Raymarine Live. So one of the biggest questions that I hear over and over again, whether it's at a show or via email or through the web, is what's the best way to upgrade my helm with the minimum amount of reconstruction and hassle? So we know a lot of people, when they start their electronics upgrade, the first thing they're looking at is their multifunction display or chart plotter. And one of the things that we try to do is to make that as easy as possible. We offer a line of adapter plates. And let me show you what an adapter plate looks like and what it does. So over my shoulder here, I have an E80 display. This is from our E-Series Classic lineup, and I'm sure somebody out there watching tonight probably has one of these bad boys still running on board their boat. So the E80 was an 8-inch button-operated multifunction display. There's a zillion of these out there. They were super popular back in the day. But as you can see, this has a pretty hefty footprint. It has mounting points up on the corners of the display. And maybe if we swap to the product cam for just a second, Mr. Producer, I'm going to point out where the mounting points are on this big display. Find the sweet spot here in the camera. There we go. So up on the corners of the display, there's 4 holes. So the front bezel comes off, and there's normally 4 bolts that hold this into the helm of your boat. So when you pull this out, one of the accessories we offer is this mounting adapter plate. I'm going to hold it up here for the camera. So you can see that this mounting adapter plate is made of anodized or powder-coated aluminum, so super lightweight, but it is pre-cut to fit, in this case, an Axiom plus 9 on that inside. The outside is already pre-drilled to fit the same mounting holes that this E80 left behind. So what's really cool about these adapter plate kits is when you pull out the E80, if it's been in there, for 10, 12, 15 years on board your boat, there's probably going to be a ring of dirt around it. There's probably going to be a little bit of old silicone sealant, a little bit of caulking, maybe even some discoloration or fading of the gel coat around it. When this plate goes down, it completely covers all of that up. It is completely hidden from view, so you get a nice, tidy, ship-shape appearance. And then this hole is perfectly sized to accommodate an Axiom 9. So in this case, we're going from an 8-inch screen to a 9-inch screen. The Axiom 9 is going to drop right into this panel here. And again, you get a nice clean appearance all around. It works with the sun cover that's provided with Axiom, and it includes the fasteners and hardware to make it all work. So everything you need is included in the kit. It's a great way to upgrade your helm, give it a makeover without having to do any fiberglass or carpentry work, because that's the pits and that's really expensive. So this can allow you to change out very, very easily. I'm just going to slip this behind me. So I want to talk a little bit about the cabling that's used with these systems as well. So on the back of these old E80 displays, they have a series of connectors. And one of them that I want to point out in particular is this big connector. This is called a Seatalk high-speed connector. And if you're familiar a little bit with like home and office networking, if you look really closely into the center of that connector, there's an RJ45 Ethernet connector in there. So Seatalk High Speed was our first generation marine Ethernet. And this big chunky connector was designed to create a watertight and vibration-proof connection to the back of this E-Series display. So through the years, we've improved that connection. We've made it smaller. But if you already have this cable strung through your boat, you don't have to tear it out. You can actually use this cable with that new Axiom display. So one of the options that we offer is a cable like this. So this is a Seatalk High Speed to Raynet. Oops, down. There we go. Whoop, there we go. Seatalk High Speed to Raynet adapter cable. So this has the female Raynet. So this is ready to go into the back of the Axiom. And this is going to accept that RJ45 end with the big waterproof locking collar from the E-Series that's already strung through your boat. We also offer this in the opposite layout as well. So if you had an older sounder module, an older radar, something like that, that used one of these big Seatalk HS cables, and you're going to use it in a new system. We have a male version of this to female, male to female, so you can make that work as well. So it's a cool option available from our kind of parts and accessories lineup. Another one that can come in handy is, let's look at the back of this E80 again at some of the other connectors that we've got on here. People will often ask, what other cables can I reuse? What can I recycle? Do I have to tear every single thing out? So these E80 displays had a wide range of connectors on them. And the other one that I want to call your attention to is this other very large connector up here. This is a multi-pin connector for a radar scanner. So this generation of E-Series, we call it E-Series Classic now. There was an 8-inch and a 12-inch, E80 or E120. They were often paired with an analog radar scanner. So if you have one of these units, or if you have its sister unit, which was the C-Series, that they were C70, C80, and C120, 7, 8, or 12 inches. And if your radar is plugged into this big, giant radar port directly on the back of the screen, that is an analog radar. And unfortunately, that will not work on a modern Axiom system. It's just a little bit too old, uses a different connection technology. But with these E-Series units, these also were around during the transition to digital radar. So if you have a radar and it's not directly connected to your E80, but is instead maybe connected to a network switch or connected to the network port, the Seatalk HS port on here, that is a digital radar. And there's a very good chance that that will work with your new Axiom displays. And if you have any questions about that, the best way to tell is if you can get the model number and serial number off of it and get in touch with our support team. We can certainly look it up for you or identify what you have, or do a quick Google search of the part number itself, and it'll identify whether that is a digital or an analog radar. So speaking of radars, another upgrade that frequently we get asked about, let me just put this back over here, get it out of the way. When we came out with the Quantum radar and the Quantum 2 with Doppler, they were very, very popular units. So that is our radome scanner, 24-mile radar with or without Doppler target tracking. A lot of people were interested in swapping over, particularly to the Doppler radar, and they might have had a prior generation digital radome scanner, either an 18 or a 24-inch. So if you're making that transition from a digital radar to a Doppler radar, we actually have an adapter for that too. So this is a Quantum radar to digital radar cable adapter. Let me bring it up over here again, just so you can see it a little better, see exactly what it's got on it. So in this case, we have the female end. This is going to accept the cable that's already strung through your radar arch or down your mast. And then these two connectors up here, one is a Seatalk high speed, one is a power cable. These are going to plug into the Quantum radar scanner. So that enables you to use the cable that's already run through the boat to run a Quantum radar. Now, of course, there is another way to do it as well. Quantum radars have Wi-Fi capability, but you still got to get power up to them. So if you can reuse the cable that's already there for power using something like this, then you might as well use the cable for all of its capabilities and just wire it up. But it's a great way to go. Saves a lot of time, a lot of hassle. You don't have to fish the wire, through all those tight pipes or through the radar arch. Let's see. So another question that we get related to updating Axiom displays in particular is, can they be mixed and matched? And the answer to that is yes. So we've been making our Axiom series now for quite a while, and we have several different generations of Axioms. So on the basic Axiom product, like we were looking at a second ago, there is the original flavor, Axiom 7, 9, and 12, and there is an Axiom Plus version in 7, 9, and 12. Those are all glass touchscreen units. Then we have Axiom Pro, and then we recently released Axiom 2 Pro, so a second generation of the Axiom 2, and that's our hybrid touch product. It has touchscreen and button-based controls on it. And then at the top of the Axiom lineup, we have Axiom XL, which go from 16, 19, 22, and 24 inches. And then there's a second generation version of those. But the cool thing is, no matter which axioms you have, no matter what flavor, no matter what generation, they can all be connected together on the same network. They all run the same Lighthouse 4.6 operating system if you want to update it to the latest. And the oldest axioms run just like the newest axiom. So it is a very flexible system. So if you had an axiom system for a couple of years and you want a bigger screen, or you want to add another screen in another location, there are options to do that very, very easily. A couple of things to know with the smaller axioms, basically in the 7, 9, and 12-inch category, you can get them with built-in sonar or without. So you'll see some called Axiom RV, and you'll see some called Axiom Chartplotter. So an RV one has our real vision sonar system. The Chartplotter equipped units do not have built-in sonar, so there's no connector for a transducer on them. When you move up into the mid-tier, either Axiom Pro or Axiom 2 Pro, all of those units have sonar, but again, there's two flavors of them. If you see an Axiom Pro or 2 Pro with a -S suffix on the end, that has a basic chirp depth finding sonar. So it's just the high frequency chirp, down-looking sonar, gives you real basic fish finding. You can see bottom scroll, you can see some fish, you can see bottom density with it. Or the higher end model for fishing is the Axiom Pro RVX, or the Axiom 2 Pro RVM, and that is our Real Vision 3D or Real Vision Max system. And those units have a different transducer setup. They support all the 3D, side vision, down vision, and they have 1 kilowatt chirp for deep water or offshore fishing. When you bump up onto the high end of the axioms, the XLs, the larger screens, those don't have any sonar in them at all. So in order for those to have either sonar or fish finder capability, you need to add to that Axiom XL system either another Axiom that has built-in sonar, and it'll see it through the network, or a black box module like an RVM 1600 or a CP570, whatever is appropriate for your needs, whether you're fishing or cruising. But just keep that in mind with those products. Let's pause for just a second because I've been gabbing for a long time, and let's see if we got any questions in the queue, Mr. Producer Man. Anything catch your eye? Sailing in Faith. Have you ever fixed the bugs that happen when Navionics first loads, causing the Chartplotter to crash and Lighthouse has to restart? We have fixed that, yes. So if you have not updated your software recently, please update your software. Lighthouse 4.6 will take care of that. That bug that you're referring to was actually corrected quite a while ago. But when you upgrade to the latest version, you're going to get all the changes and all the fixes that have been made. Another thing I'll just throw out, if you're having an issue like that too, consider updating your Navionics charts. They do have a subscription program. You can plug your charts in online. They'll get the latest data on your charts. It'll also kind of refresh all of the files on your charts just to be sure there's nothing corrupted. Anytime you're seeing crashing like that, obviously that's something to be concerned about, and make sure you have latest software on the Raymarine side. Update your charts on the Navionics side too. And from Charles, PowerPole has a trolling motor. When can we look for integration with Axiom? Thank you for the reply. Well, let's say, Charles, as you know, we have integration with Rodan trolling motors. We added that a little while ago. I'm not supposed to speak about unreleased products, but pay attention as July comes around, because there's a big show called ICAST. It's held in Orlando every year. That is the sport fishing industry show. And if you tune in to the news out of that show, you might hear something. Maybe we got time for one more question, then we'll get back to the program. Rooftop Safety USA. When you say Raynet, is that the same as Seatalk NG? Great question and very on topic. That's actually kind of what we're going to transition to next. So Raynet is different from Seatalk NG, and let me explain the difference. So Raynet is a high-speed Ethernet-based connection. So this is actually a Raynet cable on this side. Raynet is related to Ethernet, like you might have for high-speed broadband in your home or your office. We use a watertight connector with a locking collar on it that's more suitable for the marine environment than a typical office-style connector, which is this guy over here, an RJ45. So when we say Raynet, we're talking about this small twist lock Ethernet-based system. So our Raynet cables generally come in a double-ended configuration. So they'll have this twist lock waterproof female connector on both ends. Our Axiom displays all have that connector. Our network switches have that connector. Radar scanners, FLIR cameras, just about everything has that connector. Though we do have some options if you need to deviate and go to a different connector or adapt into old cabling, we can facilitate that. So let's talk about the other half of your question, Seatalk NG. And Seatalk NG cables look like this. Maybe we can bring this up on the product camera because we're going to be talking Seatalk NG for a second. So Seatalk NG, oops, where'd it go? There we go. So Seatalk NG uses a multi-pin connector like this. So with these Seatalk NG connectors, they're color-coded. They're either white or blue. So a white cable like this with a white tip and a white stripe in the jacket is what we call a spur cable. And spur cables are used to plug devices into the Seatalk NG network. There's another color of Seatalk NG, and that is blue. So this other one that I brought into the camera here is a backbone cable. And what you'll notice if you look really closely at the ends of these, and I'll try to show them to you, if it'll focus, maybe. Oh, there we go. You'll notice that there's different numbers of pins. The blue cable and the white cable are keyed differently. And that's kind of one of the advantages of Seatalk NG over another networking system we're going to talk about called NMEA 2000. Seatalk NG is actually a little bit easier to install because everything is color-coded and everything is keyed differently. So it is impossible to screw up wiring this, maybe unless you take a hammer and try to hammer it together, because the blue cables won't fit into the white ports and the white cables won't fit into the blue ports. So let's show you what kind of hardware we use when we're making a Seatalk NG system. This is actually a good time to bring up a kit that we offer. It's called a Seatalk NG starter kit. The part number for it, I think, is E22158, but I might have that mixed up with another one. We'll get all the part numbers for the things I talked about tonight into the notes, or certainly send me a message and I can guide you in the right direction. So Seatalk NG is a CAN bus system. So Seatalk NG actually carries NMEA 2000 data over a CAN bus. So CAN bus is a ruggedized system designed for high reliability. It is a low-speed network. So where Raynet was a high-speed network, this is a low-speed network. And the type of stuff that we carry on Seatalk NG using NEMA 2000 sentences is things like GPS position, course, speed, heading, wind, depth, a waypoint destination. It could be engine data, things like engine RPMs, oil pressure, oil temperature. But the thing you'll notice with all this data is it's all basic alphanumeric data. So a lot of information, but it's carried at low speed over CAN bus in a network that's designed for super high reliability. These Seatalk NG or NEMA 2000 networks are what we call a terminated network as well. So you will have a cable or sections that run down the length of the boat called a backbone. In a Seatalk NG system, the backbones are blue. And then you'll have white connections called spurs. And this is where you plug in your devices. So your GPS might plug into one. An Axiom might plug into one. An autopilot controller might plug into one. Farther down the boat, we can plug in a blue cable. We could run this, 10 meters away, put in another one of these 5-way drop connectors, and I could add more sensors into the network. I could plug in my Yamaha engine gateway into here, and I could plug in an Airmar weather sensor for meteorological information in here. And all that data transmits up and down the bus and is picked up by any devices or any instruments that can use it. So I mentioned that Seatalk NG is kind of I won't say a competitor, but it's a variation on NMEA 2000. And I actually have some NMEA 2000 hardware as well to show you. So the thing to keep in mind is that the data carried across the network, whether it is on NMEA 2000 cabling or on Seatalk NG cabling, is exactly the same. So GPS carried over this cable is the same as GPS carried over this cable. Some boats, depending on how they were built and who wired them, actually could be wired entirely with NMEA 2000 cables and connectors. If it's an all Raymarine system, it's probably got Seatalk NG, and it could have a mix of both. If we can bring this up on the product cam again, let me just kind of point out what some standard NMEA 2000 hardware looks like. And you're going to see it's similar in some ways and different in others. So with either one of these networks, it is a powered backbone. The power provides power to the smaller sensors and the smaller displays on the network. So things like a GPS sensor or a little weather station or maybe a temperature or humidity sensor, something like that, plugged into the network, gets its power from the network. So every NMEA 2000 or Seatalk NG network will have a power drop. And that's what this is. This is a NEMA 2000 T connector with a power cable to feed the network. On this NMEA 2000 connector set, I actually have a two-way connector. So these are two spur connections where I can bring devices in. And then the ends of the network, just like in Seatalk NG, have terminators. So this is a NEMA 2000 terminator. So it's a little bit bigger than the Seatalk NG version. But what also makes this a little bit different and it's just slightly more difficult to work with is the fact that everything is keyed both male and female. So if you look at the terminators that I have, this terminator is actually a female. The terminator that I have at the other end, if I were to unscrew it, is actually a male cable. So as you're wiring in NEMA 2000 N2K, you do kind of have to keep track of what direction all your cables are going in. Make sure you get all the genders aligned correctly. Boy, that's a treacherous statement to make today, isn't it? But you have to keep that in mind to make sure that, you know, when you string a cable, for example, through a pipe or through a tower or up someplace where it involves lots of bloody knuckles and swearing, that when you get to the other end, you want to make sure that you have a cable of the proper gender at the other end. And this is an example of a NEMA 2000 interconnect cable. And you can see it's got male on one end and female on the other. So just keep that in mind. Now, there might be times when you're working on your boat and maybe it was pre-rigged with some NEMA 2000 backbone cable and some NEMA 2000 T connectors and things like that. So the question is often raised, well, if I have a bunch of NEMA 2000 stuff that the boat builder put in, and I'm going to add a bunch of Raymarine stuff, what's the best way to wire it up? And can I combine them together? So the answer to that is yes, you can combine them. So this is an example of an adapter cable that changes the backbone, because notice it's blue, or on this camera, blue. And what it has on it is it has a NEMA 2000 device net female connector at one end and a Seatalk NG female at the other. So using this device here, I can take my N2K backbone, I can plug in with my adapter cable, and I can keep the backbone going. But now N2K is running on the Seatalk NG cabling system. So I could have devices plugged in here. Here's my power feed for N2K. I'm continuing the backbone down into the Raymarine section of my boat, and I could use a Raymarine 5-way. So I'm going to pop the Raymarine terminator out of here. I'm going to plug into my Seatalk NG 5-way, lock it in, and now I have white spur connectors here where I could put in other Raymarine Seatalk NG devices. So they could be, you know, instruments, i70 instruments, or a P70 autopilot controller, or anything else Raymarine. Now, what's kind of cool about this is I have mixed the cabling systems together, but this is still a perfectly legal network in both Seatalk NG and in NMEA 2000. I have a power feed, a single power feed feeding all devices on the backbone. I have a terminator at each end. In this case, one of them is an N2K terminator, and the other one is a Seatalk NG terminator. But they both perform the same function in the network. These electrically define the ends. So using this simple adapter cable, it just makes this wiring process a lot easier. Now, let's say we want to start plugging devices in. So I have this Raymarine instrument. Here I've got an i70 instrument, and I want to plug it in, but you know what? I need to plug this in down at the N2K end, and this instrument has a Seatalk NG connector on it. Well, as you might imagine, we have a cable for that too. and it's out here somewhere. And what did I do with it? Oh, here it is. So this one has Seatalk NG on one end. So I plug into my instrument, twist to lock. And now with the other end, I have a DeviceNet male. I can come up to one of these female N2K spur connectors, line it up, and it will seat in there. And we are off and running. So now this instrument is going to get power from the network, from the backbone, and it's going to participate in both the N2K and the Seatalk NG networks because they're all one and the same at this point. They're joined together through this blue cable. So I've got quite a spaghetti mess of cables and connectors here, but I just wanted to demonstrate that N2K, NEMA 2000, and Seatalk NG are essentially very close cousins. The cabling system is different, but we have adapters so you can go back and forth. And we have a bunch of different adapters for that. So we have them in male and female. So if you need to add a third-party device, maybe you bought a Garmin instrument, you want to drop it in the middle of your Raymarine network. Don't know why you'd want to do that, but if you did, you can. We have the cable to do it. So it has the proper DeviceNet on one end, Seatalk NG on the other. Plug this end into the Garmin, this end into your 5-way connector, and you're off and running. So it's a very, very flexible system. No matter which way you choose to wire your boat, it works quite nicely, very reliable, waterproof, and rugged. And that's really what it's all about. Let's pause for a second, look at a few more questions. What have we got in there, Mr. Producer Man? From Ahmad, does Quantum Doppler support bird mode? So the Quantum Doppler does not support bird mode specifically. If you want to do bird mode, probably the best radar in our lineup is a Magnum open array. If you go with 12 kilowatts, that's awesome. 4 kilowatts is great too. Or if you need it in the smaller form factor of a radome scanner, take a look at the RD 418 HD or 424 HD. Those are our HD color radome scanners that use a magnetron output. So they have a little bit, well, they have a lot higher power output, but using magnetron technology, it's a little bit better suited for bird finding. Those radars actually have a specific bird mode, and you'll see it in the radar menu on Axiom when you're in the radar app. And Patrick, can the Axiom RV be used with older Airmar transducers? Wow. It's like you guys are predicting the future here. That's my next topic on the paper. All right. Yes, in fact, they can. So the Axiom RV, and let me grab the unit that I brought and bring it back for a second. So Axiom RV and Axiom Plus RV are probably our most popular series of MFDs right now. And if we look at the back of this unit, so this is an Axiom RV model. So this has Real Vision 3D sonar built in. So we have a series of ports across the bottom of it. So we have a network port. This is Raynet, high-speed Ethernet. There's actually a USB port back here, and this is to plug in an external card reader, typically. This is the power cable and the NEMA 2000 N2K. So the power cable on this actually has an N2K connector on it, and then it comes with an adapter cable in the box to adapt it to Seatalk NG. That plugs in here. And then this final port, this big one, 25 pins in this bad boy. This is the transducer connector for Real Vision 3D. Now, the reason it has so many pins in it is there's actually a lot more sonar in here than just the Real Vision 3D. So believe it or not, with one transducer, you can do down vision, side vision, three-dimensional sonar, and high-frequency chirp. But with these Axiom RV models, it doesn't end there. There is actually a second sonar built into every Axiom RV. It is a digital sonar with 600 watts of output power, and it has two frequencies. It has 200 kilohertz and 50 kilohertz. So there's a couple of different ways that we can adapt this port to be used with Airmar transducers on 50 and 200 kilohertz. So let me show you a couple of options. I'm going to put this down for a second. I think you can still see it in the camera. You can go ahead and leave that up, Mr. Producer. So let's say, for example, we wanted to bring in something called an embedded transducer. So if we go back a couple of generations of Raymarine displays, back to our A series, our last generation C series, and our E and ES series, some of those models ended with a 7. So for example, you might have an E127, or you might have a C97, or an A77. The 7 is the last digit of the model number, means that it had a built-in dual frequency digital sonar, and it used a mini connector for its transducer. And if you want to keep using that transducer on your new Axiom RV, that's actually what this transducer adapter does. So this is the 25-pin connector here, and this is what we call an Airmar embedded sonar transducer connector. So the existing transducer that's in your boat, you'll remove it from your old unit coming out that ends in a 7. You'll plug that transducer right in here, plug that into Axiom, and whammo bammo, you will have 2 channels, 50 kilohertz, 200 kilohertz on your Axiom off and running. Now, you may ask yourself, well, Axiom has all those other channels. I don't want to lock myself out of that. Can I have both? And the answer to that is yes, you can. So let me show you this guy. So this is a dual transducer adapter cable for an Axiom RV. So with this Y cable, I'm going to take this end of it. I'm going to plug it into the 25-pin port. And it comes with a locking collar kit that I have not installed, but normally you'd lock it on. And now, if we look in the detailed view here, let me line these up for you. I have 2 connectors. This one will accept any of the Real Vision 3D transducers. So an RV 100, 200, 300, 400 series transducer, whether you want transit mount or plastic, bronze, or stainless through hulls. And then this side will accept that Airmar dual frequency 600 watt digital transducer. Boy, that's a lot of descriptors on that. But it'll plug right in here. Now, when Axiom sees 2 transducers connected up, you'll get all of the Real Vision 3D sonar channels except one. So the trade-off for doing this dual transducer setup is you're going to lose the high chirp over here in Real Vision 3D. But what you're going to make up for it with is you're going to get 200 kilohertz, which is in the same frequency band. Now, granted, it's not chirp, but it is high frequency, and it is 600 watts of power driving it through here. So it's actually a lot more powerful than what you had over here. So you're going to get deeper water penetration. Plus, you get 50 kilohertz, and that is low frequency. So low frequency is going to get you into much, much deeper water. It's probably going to have a wider beam on it, depending on what transducer you had. So this gives you some really nice coverage if you go into coastal waters or even into some offshore fishing scenarios with a little Axiom RV. You know, it could be a 7-inch unit. You can have a pretty killer setup with 2 transducers on it. I actually run this setup on my own boat, and it works really, really well. Now, there's another option as well. Let me show you what this looks like. I'm just going to pop this out. Let me reach over here for a second. This is the same sort of transducer adapter cable. So 25-pin connector over here. We have a Real Vision 3D connector over here. But this one is designed to accept the large format connector Airmar transducers. So if you had previously a DSM 250, a DSM 30, a DSM 300, a CP 450, a CP 470, CP 300. I don't know. There's probably some other ones I missed in there too. But any of the traditional digital 50 and 200 kilohertz non-chirp transducers that use the full-size Airmar Raymarine connector will plug in right here. And it's the same deal when it's connected to Axiom RV. Axiom RV will drive them at 600 watts of power. You will lose the high-frequency chirp channel. That's the sacrifice you make, but you retain everything else. So you have down vision, side vision, 3D sonar, and then 200 kilohertz at 600 watts and 50 kilohertz at 600 watts. So it makes for a really nice setup for coastal or even some offshore fishing. So definitely consider that if you have those old transducers already in your boat. We have other adapters as well, like all in. And I ordered adapters the other day for this Raymarine Live, and this box showed up, and I have it spread out all over my office floor. And I could probably show you adapter cables for the next 4 hours. I have so many different adapter cables in there. If you have a scenario on board your boat where you've got an old transducer and you want to use it on a new Raymarine system, send us a message, put in a ticket to our support, drop me an email, however you want to do it, but let me know what you have, because we probably have a solution to get you there. I got another one to show you. This is a little bit different setup. So everything I was showing you just now works with an Axiom RV or an Axiom Plus RV. But let's say you have an Axiom Pro or an Axiom 2 Pro or an RVX 1000 or an RVM 1600 sonar module. So those are the those have the bigger chirp sonar in them. So they have all the Real Vision 3D or Real Vision Max channels that we just talked about, but they actually have a second transducer and second transducer connector and a full second sonar in them that is a chirp sonar. But if you have an older transducer that is not chirp, we make an adapter that's just a straight through, so you can plug it in. So you've got an Airmar non-chirp transducer. That's what the box looks like. The adapter itself is not much to look at. It's just a black connector at each end. But again, it has the right connector at one side to go into the 1 kW chirp port on an Axiom Pro or one of those modules. And then it has the right connector to accept the Airmar transducer on the other end. But let me show you the other one that I think is actually really neat. We see a lot of people will go from an embedded sonar. So they might have had an ES127, 12-inch screen, built-in 600-watt sonar, and now they're going to an Axiom 2 Pro RVM. And it used to be that you couldn't connect those little embedded transducers with the mini connectors onto the bigger Axioms and the larger black box modules. But now you can. So this accessory is an Airmar embedded transducer junction box. So what you do with this is you would open the lid on the box, and there's a terminal strip inside. And I'm going to bring it up for a second on the other camera. Let me just show you what it looks like on the front. It actually has all the instructions on it. So there's a terminal strip inside the box. You will cut the connector off of your embedded transducer. It runs in through this little gland on the bottom, and then you'll wire it to the terminal strip inside according to the directions on the lid. And then you can plug this right into, the 1 kW port on an Axiom Pro, an Axiom 2 Pro. This would be an RVM or RVX model, an RVX 1000 or an RVM 1600 sonar module. So it lets you, again, use that 600-watt transducer on there. So it'll be in a non-chirp format. When the Axiom Pros detect that there's a non-chirp transducer there, they'll switch into their standard digital mode. So they'll support 50 kilohertz and 200 kilohertz. And they will only hit the transducer with as much power as it can support. Most of those embedded transducers are 600 watts of power. There's a function called transducer ID. So the transducer communicates to the sonar. It tells the sonar, hey, only 600 watts, hold back a little bit so it doesn't blow anything up. And it works very, very well. So that box enables upgrades onto those Axiom Pros if you had one of those units with an embedded transducer. And there's certainly a lot of them out there because the Axiom Pro form factor, which is this, like this guy over here, you've got touch and you've got buttons and controls. So people like to retain that capability of having the buttons and the touch screen control. So Axiom Pro is the natural platform that you migrate to. And we're glad to be able to support that embedded transducer on those platforms. Plus, you still have access to all the new Real Vision Max or Real Vision 3D capability as well. Let's take a look at some questions again. I've seen we keep scrolling some questions there. We got some good ones in the queue. Can I use the GPS from the Axiom and use a port on my Seatalk to Seatalk converter to feed a GPS signal to my older E120? And if not, do I need a second converter? All right, this is another great question, and it is right on topic. We love on topic questions because I'm prepared for them. I'm going to go over my shoulder here and bring up this guy. So this is a Seatalk NG converter. So what this does is it bridges the information between the older Seatalk 1 style devices and the new generation Seatalk NG or NMEA 2000 devices. So if you look at this closely, and let's bring it up on the other camera so we can see the details of it. So this looks kind of like the 5-way block that I held up earlier, but what you'll notice about this one is it's got a yellow port in the center. So this port communicates in Seatalk 1. The white ports are spurs for Seatalk NG, and the blue is backbone for Seatalk NG. So in this case, to answer your question, yes, the GPS from Axiom will travel over Seatalk NG to this Seatalk 1 to Seatalk NG converter. The GPS data then gets converted to Seatalk 1, goes out the yellow port, and it goes out on a cable that looks like this. It has a yellow cable that plugs in right here, yellow to yellow, and then the other end of it is going to look very familiar. This is a 3-pin flat Seatalk 1 connector. So you'll find these all over the backs of older generation Chartplotters, older generation instruments, autopilots. So this just plugs right in. All the data from your Seatalk 1 devices goes the other way too. So let's say you have a sailboat and you have ST60 instruments. You got depth and speed and wind, and maybe you have some of the older multi-displays and things like that. So depth, speed, and wind is all going to go through this module and back into Axiom. And then all of Axiom's information goes the other way. So you get full capability. It's actually a pretty nice little device. You do not need to purchase more than one of these. One converter, if it's properly positioned between the two networks, Seatalk NG on one side, Seatalk 1 on the other, this will convert all the data back and forth. If it is more convenient to install more than one of these because it's just really hard to pull cables or whatever, you can do that. It is legal, but only one is actually needed in the network. When you buy one of these, it comes in a kit. So it'll actually come with this block. It comes with this adapter cable that I showed you. It will come with a set of blue backbone terminators because this little block in itself is a Seatalk NG backbone. So we'd have to have 2 terminators in the ends if we were using it alone. It has, I think, a spur cable in it, so it can run up to a Seatalk NG device. So it has everything you need right in the kit. And then if you're putting this into a larger network, you simply pull the terminator out, add a backbone cable, and then you run down the boat to whatever your next set of devices is. So it follows all the same rules as Seatalk NG for cabling. And just to answer the question before it's asked, yes, you can use this in an NMEA 2000 network too. So the sentences that this generates are standard NEMA 2000 sentences. So if you have non-Raymarine N2K devices and you want to get wind from your old ST60, this will do it for you. So pretty nice little accessory to have. Let me just take a quick peek at my notes and make sure that I haven't missed anything vitally important. So amazingly, you guys have been spot on with the questions and had almost everything so far that I was going to talk about. Okay, got one more for you. Again, talking about Seatalk NG and older instruments. If anybody out there has a sailboat and they have some of those ST30, ST40, ST50 instruments, and you haven't upgraded them in years and years and years, if your transducers work still, you can actually leave the transducers in the boat and convert them to digital Seatalk NG or NMEA 2000 sentences. The device we use to do that is this guy. So this is another accessory that can make upgrading an old boat very, very simple. And this is called an ITC5. ITC5, ITC is Instrument Transducer Converter. And the reason it's got 5 is it does 5 functions. It does wind, speed, depth, compass, and rudder. And let's pop this one up on the product cam for a second so I can show you the connectors inside. Get this in camera view, focus. All right. So you can see we have some color-coded connectors in there. Come on, camera. You were in focus a second ago. Get a little closer. Oh, there we go. All right, so you can see the red line up there is our speed and temperature transducer. The brown one is wind, yellow is compass, green is rudder, and blue is depth. And this uses what they call FISO connectors. They are like slip-on spade connectors that are commonly used on all of the instrument transducers. So you would just literally match up the colors on each tab. You slide them on. This device can be powered either directly using a Seatalk NG power cable, or you can plug it into a powered backbone and power it that way. So your analog transducers plug in here, and what comes out that white spur port is fully formatted NMEA 2000 depth, speed, wind, compass, and rudder angle sentences. And you can use that on any system out there. So it's pretty cool. When you're using this with a Raymarine Axiom system, you can do all of the calibrations that would be associated with those types of transducers through the Axiom menu system. So although this will work with anything out there, for calibration purposes, obviously it works best with a Raymarine system. You don't have to use all of the functions on it. If you only want to convert your wind instrument, that's fine. If you only want to, do speed and temp and depth, that's fine. The rudder and the compass functions that are on here, the sensors that they work with are older generation autopilot sensors. So for example, if you got an older Raymarine pilot, you probably have this hidden on board your boat somewhere. This is the old FluxGate compass. This compass was discontinued when we switched from the Smart Pilot series or the SPX series into the Evolution pilots about 9 years ago. But there's still a ton of these sensors out there. And just to show you what the connectors look like on the end, there's those FISO spade connectors. Oops, come back this way. You can see they're all color-coded. I've got yellow, red, blue, green, and a shield. On the ITC5, on the compass connectors, there'll be one spade per color. You just slip them all on there, and instantly you would have NEMA 2000 coming from this antique compass sensor. Is it the best compass sensor in the world to use on a NEMA 2000 network? No, probably not. Is it better than having no compass sensor? Yes, absolutely. Because with compass heading, you can do all sorts of things on your chart plotter and on your radar that you can't do without it. It helps with MARPA. It helps with stabilizing the PPI. So definitely, if you have one of these and it's not doing anything on board your boat, slap it into an ITC5 and use the heading information. So it's a very useful device, this ITC5. The box itself is pretty small, as you can see. The box is water resistant, but it is not submersible. So you'll want to mount this inside the boat somewhere where it's not going to get rain and spray or submerged or anything like that. But a great piece of hardware, works great, and again, calibrated through the Axiom. We're getting down to the end of the hour. Let's go back to the questions and see what else we got in there, Mr. Producer Man. Try to get as many questions in as we can. From Jim, I currently have dual Axioms with quantum radar. I want to add a CAM 300 near the back of the boat, near the radar and GPS sensor. Can I connect the camera in with radar or GPS sensor cables, or do I need to run a cable all the way up to the Axioms? So the CAM 300, and I don't have one here at arm's reach, but it is a little marine eyeball camera. It is an Ethernet camera. So it does have a short Ethernet pigtail on it, and then you would tie it into a Raynet to RJ45 cable, something like this, only long enough to stretch all the way back. So you don't necessarily have to run it all the way to Axiom, but it does need to plug into a Raynet high-speed network port. So the places that you're going to find those connectors are either on the backs of your Axioms or on a network switch. If you have a whole bunch of devices that are far from Axiom, but are kind of clustered together, you could consider putting a network switch in that location. So you have one cable from Axiom to the switch, and then you might have your radar, your camera, a FLIR, a sonar module, something like that, all plugged into the network switch. We have two versions of the network switch. There's a 5-port and an 8-port switch. So depending on how many devices you have, you can get the one that best suits your needs. And you can add additional network switches as your system grows and you need more connections. Another nice feature about the 8-port switch, 4 of the ports on it are standard ports for data, and then 4 of them are what they call power over Ethernet. So for a device like CAM300, if you plug it into a power over Ethernet enabled port, it'll actually send power down the wire to the camera. So you don't have to run a separate fuse and power feed to the camera. It'll get it right off the Ethernet or Raynet network that way. So there's a couple of different ways you can do it, Jim. And certainly if you need some more guidance, certainly feel free to open a ticket with us or shoot me an email. From Gordon, will a recording of this webinar be posted somewhere for reference later on? Absolutely, it will. So we are streaming right now to Facebook, YouTube, X, and Instagram. And the moment the live broadcast ends, those systems have been recording ever since the beginning. So the recorded versions will be available on all of those platforms. And that reminds me of a homework assignment I have for all of you that are watching. If you can help us spread the word about what we do here at Raymarine Live, if you think somebody else who owns some Raymarine products can benefit from these sessions, please share our content with them. You can send them the invitations when they come out. You can send them the link to the video after this is over. If you like, share, and subscribe, it is very helpful to us to get the word out, and we hope you'll do that on social media. What else have you got for me there, Mr. Producer Man? We got a lot of questions in the queue tonight. Let's see. Gil Lewis, I am looking for an adapter to utilize my old SmartCraft to the Tamarins. I think maybe you meant to say Raymarines. So SmartCraft to Raymarine. I'm going to go with that. But if you were asking something different, post another comment and give me some more detail. So Mercury SmartCraft. SmartCraft is the networking system Mercury uses to send engine data around the boat. So if you have Mercury engines, if you have some of the Cummins Mercuries or diesels, you may have SmartCraft running through the helm of your boat to your gauges and to your instrument system. So there is a device called a SmartCraft Connect Gateway. It is a Mercury part. You can order it through any Mercury Marines parts counter. It comes in 4 versions, depending on how many engines you have on board your boat. So there's a single engine version. There's actually 2 single engine versions, one to be installed under the engine cowl or one to be installed under the helm, whichever works better for your application. But then there's a dual, a triple, and a quad engine version of SmartCraft Connect Gateway. So you would order up the appropriate one from your Mercury parts counter. They're actually going to program it to your engines. They have to input your engine serial numbers into this little gateway device. But then when they send you off with it, it plugs in underneath your helm into a SmartCraft hub that is already there. Your instruments are probably plugged into it. Your throttles and controls and things are plugged into it. And then the output side of that is a NMEA 2000 connection. So you will use a NEMA 2000 adapter cable and then plug it into your Seatalk NG network. On our Axiom displays, we have a Mercury app that works with SmartCraft Connect Gateway. When you pop it open, it's going to look just like the latest generation color Mercury display. It has Mercury factory graphics. It has controls for all the different engine parameters. It supports joystick piloting. It supports Skyhook. So it is an all-inclusive and all-controlling system. It is designed and certified by Mercury, and it works on all Raymarine Axiom systems. You do have to have that gateway device to plug into it, and then you have to have the software updated in your Axiom display. We started adding the Mercury support about 2 years ago, so most of you probably have it in there. You may not know it, but it's in there. It's an app on your Axiom that you can add to the interface. But it does require that SmartCraft Connect Gateway for it to go live. I think we got time maybe for one more. We got 1 minute to go. From Mitch, I have an MD series FLIR that worked with my old C97, but I can't find it on my new Axiom Plus. Is there an adapter I could use to communicate with the new Axiom? There is. So an MD series FLIR, that is a fixed mount forward-looking camera with an analog video output. And your C97 had an analog video input, but Axiom Pluses do not. Axiom Pluses only support digital video. So there is an accessory. It is an analog video to IP video converter. I believe we have it in the FLIR parts list. And if you want to shoot me an email, Mitch, I will try to get a part number to you for that application. Another way that you can tackle this, it may not be the best way in your case, but for other people that may run into this situation, the Axiom Pro, Axiom 2 Pro, and Axiom XL systems, they still have the analog video input on them. So they can accept the input from an MD series camera or even an older FLIR M series. Those also had analog video output. The other thing that they can do is they can encode that video to digital. And then share it with any other Axioms on board the network. So sort of the function that that standalone video encoder is doing that's available as an accessory is actually built into those Axiom Pro and Axiom XL models. So they can convert the video, send it over the network to other Axiom displays. So you can see that MD camera anywhere on board the boat. If you could shoot me an email after this is over. If you want to pop that up, Mr. Producer Man, my email, james.mcgowan@raymarine.com. There it is right there. Scribble it down. Feel free to send me questions. So with that, we'll sign off for tonight. Stay tuned. Our next episode will be next month, and we'll see you then. Thanks for watching. See you next time.